Well, in a matter of weeks, a Hannibal family will have an anniversary, and it won't be one to necessarily celebrate, but the family knows it's coming and it's going to be rough. KHQA's Chad Douglas has more on this story as we continue our series, Shattering the Silence.
May 19th, 2015, Hannibal High School senior Hannah Wathen was 2 days away from graduation. In the fall, she was set to go to medical school. Her family tells me she loved helping people. Her family and friends were devastated to find out with absolutely no warning on a Tuesday morning, Hannah had taken her own life.
Before they took her body from the house, I said to her that it wasn't that bad. Nothing was ever that bad.
11 months after burying the youngest of 3 daughters, Bob Wathen looks at life differently these days. He doesn't sweat the small stuff, but he doesn't take the time he's given for granted. His entire family now knows the value of time. Wathen's daughter Hannah had gotten into a little bit of trouble during a senior graduation tradition. Hannah wasn't a troublemaker, and when she got caught drinking, she took it hard.
In her mind, she felt like she had messed up.
Hannah's parents sat her down on the couch in the early morning hours of May 19th to talk about what had happened. Bob tells me it wasn't a heated discussion, it was just talking. They went to bed thinking the conversation would continue the next day. That conversation would never happen because Hannah committed suicide after her parents left for work that day.
One of the things you're going to hear from us, Chad, repeatedly is that there is nothing that can't be fixed. This is not a solution for anything, and for whatever reason, she got up the next morning and thought her future was ruined.
There's nothing that you can do that is not redeemable.
The Wathens tell me they're doing as well as anybody could be following a suicide. The family unit is tighter than it was before, and they give a lot of credit to their healing, to their faith. One of Hannah's older sisters, Stephanie, told me she had actually been an atheist for about 3 years before Hannah's death. In fact, she says she was saved 2 months before Hannah died. She also shared with me that Hannah's suicide was not the family's first bout.
The moment that I was contemplating suicide, I remember, and I told myself, I don't ever want to forget how alone I feel in this moment. And I thought about my kids, and I thought about the effect it would have on my boys, and I didn't want anyone else raising them. But it was at that moment when I felt so alone that for the first time in years, I said, okay, if there's anything else out there, God, if you're real, now's the time to show me because I need you. And that's the point where he came in, and I thank God for that low every day. I guess if I have any advice, it's when you get to that low, don't see that as your final destination. When you're down that low, look up.
For Hannah's sister, Stephanie, May 19th was like any other day. She had seen her sister the night before and talked about graduating and going off to college.
Our world stopped, and we're confused, and we're trying to figure out how to move forward. But when you think about it, when I think about her, I mean, there's no words for how much I miss her.
Especially since Hannah has 2 nieces and 2 nephews who won't remember her.
Our babies are growing up without their aunt, and I mean, Hannah was a cool aunt.
Just 2 days after Hannah's funeral, Hannah's sister Christina and her husband found out some good news. After battling infertility issues, she found out she was pregnant with their second daughter.
Hannah's middle name was Elizabeth, and that's our daughter's first name. We named her Elizabeth.
Nice.
We call her Lizzie.
Now, during my time with the Wathen family, they told me faith has been a huge part of their healing. So too has a scholarship that has now been set up in Hannah's memory. This graduation, 2 Hannibal seniors who are going into the medical field will each get $1,000. The Wathens say they thought maybe they'd get enough money for the scholarship to last a couple of years. Turns out they have enough to last at least 10 years.
Wow. And we continue this conversation tomorrow morning. Be sure to tune in on KHQA this morning as we talk with a suicide survivor. She shares her story for you so others don't have to walk her same path.